Figured I'd sport some of these new duds for you guys. Same old hat though, but we'll wait on this to pick up on the regular live stream, and then we'll jump into this thing. So, hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. We had a great time here. I hope you following our social media or Facebook and stuff, dude. The boy got himself a recurve, and he has been hammering it down outside with that thing. He's getting pretty good, a lot faster than I did, which is cool. But I don't know, it's fun. He's having a great time shooting it, and that's all that matters. So, this week's episode is brought to you by Deep Roots Rifle Company. Elevated excellence rooted in integrity and reliability. Hop over to their website, listen to the podcast description, and check out all their offerings from a fully custom rifle built in-house to duck and turkey decoys and everything in between. Make sure you use code UPO10 at checkout to get 10% off your next order. I got to get over to their website, probably order myself some turkey decoys. I got a turkey hunt coming up, this spring. And hopefully this will be the year. You know, it hasn't been my year for the past 25 years, but maybe this year is my year. Who knows, man? Who knows? But I'm going to try anyway. This is in a spot where I've hunted in the past and not been lucky. But hopefully I got outsmarted by that bird. Hopefully I have a better go at it this time around. But I know it hasn't quite been a year since we started this, but since the new year is turning, over the past 44 episodes, I think it is now, 42, 43, something around low 40s episodes, almost a year. We've covered a lot of stuff. But over the last year, this podcast has covered a wide range of topics. Hunting, conservation, firearms, wildlife biology, public land, regulations, cultural misunderstandings, you name it. And on the surface, those might sound like separate conversations, but when you step back and really look at it, everything we talked about becomes obvious. It's actually been one long discussion about the same problem. People have very strong opinions about systems they don't understand. And honestly, myself included. And those opinions are increasingly disconnected from reality, right? Biology and data, one of those things I've tried to do consistently on this show is pull these conversations out of the emotional space they usually live in and put them back where they belong, which is measurable outcomes. Wildlife management is not a philosophy. It's a vibe. It's not a vibe. It's not an aesthetic preference. It's one of the most data-driven systems in North America. Population estimates, harvest rates, reproductive capacity, habitat carrying capacity, disease prevalence, collision statistics, funding models. These things exist whether people like them or not. And we saw that a lot. I mean, if you attended or watched any of the bear hunt meetings down here, dude, the people get so upset when you count. And I brought this up too about deer management, right? And the allowable amount of deer you're allowed to harvest in certain states or whatever. The people get upset about collision statistics. Like that's a way that animals die. It's one of the worst ways I think animals die outside of disease. But man, we have to account for that. We have to account for that when it comes for wildlife management. So these things exist whether people like them or not. And yet most opinions about hunting and conservation are formed without ever engaging in a single one of those numbers. A recurring theme throughout the year has been the anti-hunting argument. More specifically, the idea that hunting is cruel, unnecessary, or outdated. That if humans simply stepped back and left nature alone, everything would somehow regulate itself. That idea sounds good. However, until you test it against reality, historically, large predators like wolves, mountain lions, and bears regulated deer populations across much of North America. By the early 20th century, wolves had been eliminated from over 90% of their historic range in the lower 48 states. Over 90%. Mountain lions were fragmented and heavily suppressed. Bear populations were reduced dramatically in many regions. At the same time, humans transformed the landscape. We cleared forests, we planted crops, we suppressed fires, we built roads, we created edge habitat, and white-tailed deer thrive in edge habitat. The result was not balance. The result was explosion. In 1900, there were an estimated 500,000 white-tailed deer in the entire United States. And I know that maybe you think, wow, that's a lot. Today, that number exceeds 30 million. That increase didn't happen naturally. It happened because humans removed predators, altered habitat, and then had to manage the consequences. A healthy doe can produce 1 to 3 fawns per year and can begin reproducing as early as 6 months old under ideal conditions. Without harvest pressure, deer populations can double every 2 to 3 years. That's not speculation. That's basic population math. When deer populations exceed habitat carrying capacity, and studies show this can happen by 200 to 300% in unmanaged areas, the outcome is not longer, happier lives. It's starvation, malnutrition, and disease. Chronic wasting disease spreads fast in areas with high deer density, not in areas where herds are actively managed. Winter kill events become more severe. Forests lose regeneration. Entire ecosystems degrade. None of this is theoretical. Another measurable consequence of unmanaged deer populations is vehicle collisions. In the United States, deer vehicle collisions exceed 1.5 million per year. They result in over 200 human deaths annually and more than $10 billion in property damage. $10 billion with a B. These collisions spike in areas where hunting access is restricted. And this is this is the part that almost never gets discussed by people who claim to oppose hunting because they care about animals. Vehicles are one of the most violent and common causes of death for deer. Throughout the year, we also spend a lot of time dismantling the idea that hunting and conservation are separate words. They're not. In North America, hunting is not adjacent to conservation. It's the financial backbone of it. Since 1937, the Pittman-Robertson Act has generated over $15 billion for wildlife conservation. $15 billion with a B. What's going on, AJ? In recent years alone, it brings in between $1.1 and $1.4 billion annually. That money funds habitat restoration, wildlife research, public land access, hunter education, shooting ranges, and species reintroduction programs. And it exists whether or not the purchaser ever hunts a single day in their life. The Dingell-Johnson Act operates on the same model for anglers. Since the 1950s, it's contributed over $12 billion to aquatic conservation. Boat fuel taxes alone generate hundreds of millions annually for fisheries management. If hunters and anglers disappeared tomorrow, those funding streams disappear with them. The federal duck stamp is one of the most efficient conservation tools ever created. 98 cents of every dollar goes directly to wetland conservation. 98 cents. 98% of the money you spend on a duck stamp goes directly to wetlands conservation. Since its inception, that's a hard word, isn't it? The duck stamps have protected over 6 million acres of habitat. That land benefits far more than ducks. It improves water quality, reduces flooding, supports entire ecosystems. And yet this is almost never mentioned in mainstream conservation conversations. We also spent significant time talking about deer behavior and biology because myths thrive where data is ignored. Deer movement is governed by food, pressure, and reproduction, not curiosity. Rubs and scrapes are communication tools. The rut is a biologically concentrated breeding window. Deer vision differs from human vision, but not in the exaggerated ways often portrayed online. Understanding this isn't about gaining an unfair advantage. It's about engaging honestly with wildlife. Firearms came up a lot this year, almost always in contrast to misinformation. On this show, firearms were discussed as tools, not symbols. Studies consistently show that properly placed rifle shots result in immediate or near immediate incapacitation of over 95% of big game animals. When compared to starvation, disease, vehicle collisions, and predation injuries, ethical hunting ranks among the least stressful outcomes in the wild. That reality is uncomfortable for people who oppose. Opposition is rooted purely in emotion. We talked extensively about public land and access because conservation without access is meaningless. Hunter participation has dropped from roughly 16% of the U.S. population in the 1960s to under 5% today. And yet hunters still fund the majority of wildlife conservation. That equation doesn't hold forever. Regulation creep follows a familiar pattern. Rules written by people who don't participate. Decisions made for optics, not outcomes. And once access is gone, it almost never comes back. Another quiet theme throughout the year was correcting the caricature of the modern hunter. Over 90% complete mandatory safety and ethics training. Hunting accidents rates are at historic lows, and hunters report poaching at a higher rate than the general public. Conservation doesn't work without accountability. If this all feels repetitive, it's because misinformation resets every generation. Outrage spreads faster than accuracy. Facts don't trend, and biology doesn't care about aesthetics. Repeating fundamentals isn't failure, it's responsibility. After a year of conversations, arguments, numbers, and frustration, the conclusion is simple. You cannot manage wildlife without human involvement. You cannot fund conservation without hunters and anglers. You cannot protect land by pretending people don't live on it. The North American model works because it is science-based, user-funded, and enforced. Everything we talked about this year points back to the same conclusion. Not because it's popular, but because it's true. Think about that. Been a lot of fun this year. We talked about, if I went back, we talked about guns. We talked about the anatomy of a shotgun barrel and all the different stuff in shotguns. Now we're fixing to go out, and I'm super excited to go out and have this duck hunt next week, meeting up with AJ here in the comments, and me and Josh and AJ are headed up. We're going to do a duck hunt and some old stomping grounds. I've been packing bags all week, here and there. Kind of had to wait till after Christmas because all the Christmas decorations were hidden in our closet, and I couldn't get to any of my hunting gear. But I've been going through it. Got myself a new set of waders. Got some good stuff for Christmas. And I'm excited. It's going to be fun. Coming into season 7 of the regular show. Kicking that off on the 5th of January, season 7, with Deep Roots Rifle Company. We talk about here. Talked about his hunt out in Nebraska. Killed a beautiful whitetail deer. Big story of perseverance. And you're not going to hear that for another couple weeks. This week is going to be a drop back to, what's he called? Lobo Adventures. It's a story of a dog. I don't know if you guys ever follow them on Facebook. If you haven't, you should check them out. Lobo's a cool dude. Lobo's a cool dog. Him and Curtis. Curtis found Lobo as a stray, and now Lobo literally just sits at the base of a tree. He's got his own dog stand, and he deer hunts and turkey hunts and everything else right alongside Curtis. And it's cool to watch the videos where these deer sometimes nose to nose with him on that tree, and they don't care. That just goes back to show you deer are naturally curious, and we talked about that quite a bit. Then what other ones I got coming up this week? I got that one. I think we're going to jumping back again on Tuesday. We'll publish the North American lead-free podcast. And I still haven't picked up some lead-free ammo. I think I'm going to try that in the. I'll set up my 300 blackout this year, try and get my daughter hunting, and I may try some lead-free ammo in that. Definitely try some lead-free ammo in my rifle whenever I get around to it. Maybe spend another year hunting with a 6.5. Might rebarrel it. I've tossed around that idea quite a bit. Rebarreling that rifle for sure, for sure. Not because I don't like 6.5, but just because it's. I just want something different. I want to be different, right? I like the 338 Federal. I've looked at the 8.6 blackout, but I don't like the twist rate and everything being made to shoot subsonic. I don't really want to shoot subsonic. I want a good, 200-yard gun. That 338 Federal hits that range really well, and it should suppress quite well too. So we've gone through everything. We've talked up Deep Roots giving away that pistol, which that happened a couple weeks ago, and you guys, AJ actually bought the last ticket while we were here live on the show. It's been a blast. I mean, we've talked about everything. One thing we didn't brush on in here was the everyday carry thing. And as I'm going through my stuff, like I'm trying to remember all the things I normally carry, making sure I've got all those cool things. But making sure that IFAC, that individual first aid kit is in my blind bag as it goes out with me, because you never know when you're going to need it, and you don't want to need and not have that for sure. And I hope that some of you guys maybe sought out some first aid training. Learn how to do a little more than just put a Band-Aid on. So, something to think about. Hoping you guys have a great rest of your season, however much of that you have left. I know it's coming rapidly to a close here in the next couple of weeks across most of the Southeast, if it's not closing in the next few days. Our bear hunt just ended today, and hopefully we'll see some numbers come out of that soon. I'm curious to see how that turned out. Harvest data-wise, and I'm trying to line up a guest to talk about a successful hunter from the hunt. We'll find somebody before the year is out, but it's going to take a little digging. And why, you may ask? Because the crazy people are out there being crazy. Absolutely insane. The passive threats to hunters who lawfully drew and lawfully hunted bear, lawfully drew tags, lawfully hunted bear, is ridiculous. And I think they need to be taken more seriously. However, I don't think that's going to happen, sadly. We see it every year, and this is what's oddly enough, that's what's prompted a lot of the discussion about hunting as a conservation tool is all the negativity. Because like I've said, I've sat here and I've talked about this several times, how these shows are generally derived from an experience I had earlier in the week, right? I get the idea, like, man, I got to talk about this on Sunday. And I think I'm going to start another shorter segment that may just be video only. I'm going to rant about something for 5 minutes, and I know what's coming up, and I encounter it every single week, and that's CDS. CDS in two different ways. Creedmoor derangement syndrome and crossbow derangement syndrome. I get into arguments with people about hunting with crossbows all the time. I don't hunt with a crossbow. I don't own a crossbow. I don't own a compound bow. I hunt with a longbow. I think it should be perfectly legal. I think that there's so many bow hunters out there that are so anti anything bow hunting, they're becoming the Karens of the hunting world. And that's not every one of them. But there's an awful lot of people that act that way. And it just bothers me, man. All the time I see, I don't know that I've ever seen a guy who strictly rifle hunts get on there and advocate for doing away with bow season or shortening bow season or allowing people to hunt with a rifle year round. Yet we see it all the time. I see it all the time from bow hunters talking about how this state or that state should be a one-buck state and they should shorten rifle season by 6 weeks and make bow season longer. Come on, man. You can hunt with a bow all season long. God forbid you got to wear orange. And don't get me wrong. I have to agree with Stephen Ranella. I'm all for the just an orange hat rule. I think the orange vest is okay. But when you get those states, like I know Tennessee requires you to wear an orange vest and an orange hat. Come on, man. Give me a break. That's a little much. I'm all for just an orange hat or just an orange vest. I like the way Alabama does it, where you're required to wear, you don't have to wear orange on private property. That's your own choice. But once you're more than 12 feet off the ground, you don't have to wear orange at all. You can take it off. You get up in a tree, you can take it off. You get inside of a blind, you can take it off. I should be relatively safe up in a tree, right? So allow me to take my orange off. Maybe have it on when I move. But those are weird laws. I've seen people get upset over them allowing pink in addition to orange in some states. Georgia just passed it. I love it. I don't care to wear pink, but my little girl was absolutely freaking ecstatic she could wear a hot pink vest instead of an orange one. She never complained that she had to wear an orange vest. But if you give her the option to wear pink or orange, she's picking pink every day. And the more people we can get involved in hunting, the better. Because as we talked about here, hunting funds conservation to the tune of billions of dollars. Not millions, not hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of millions, billions. That's 1 million million, billions. Or 1,000 billion is a billion. A million millions is a trillion. Something like that. I don't know. I don't math well. Don't hold me to it. It's a lot of money. More money than I know what to do with. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. This next year is going to be a lot of fun. We got some cool stuff to talk about coming up. I've got some awesome guests lined up outside of that. The next 3 coming up here. We're talking, like I said, talking squirrel hunting, and then talking some new fishing products coming out for the fishing market in late January. And then we've got other guests lined up in January to talk more hunting. So they'll keep rolling on through January, and I guess we got to talk turkeys. Maybe I'll learn something. Who knows? Maybe I'll learn something and you'll learn something too. Stick around. We'll see how it goes. But until then, that's all I got for you guys. You guys have a great new year. Happy New Year. If you're listening to this, yeah, it'll be New Year's Eve when it comes out. So happy New Year. Make good decisions, all right? Your friends want you here. Your family needs you here. And you got more critters to hunt, more deer to kill. So make good decisions this New Year's Eve. If you're going to drink, don't drive. Do the watermelon crawl. Funny story about that. I was tasked with giving a safety brief one day when I was in the Army. And I got up to the front of the formation, and I literally said, the usual, don't get yourself in trouble, whatever else. And I ended it with, if you drink, don't drive, do the watermelon crawl. And I got some chuckles out of the formation. And then, I did my thing, go back in formation to dismiss us for the day. And the lieutenant pulled me aside. He's like, Krebs, he says, what's the watermelon crawl? I said, sir, you've never heard that song? No. So then I had to play the whole, watermelon crawl song for him. But yeah, if you drink, don't drive, do the watermelon crawl, and be careful. All right. Don't put yourself in any situation you shouldn't be in. And it's always easier to walk away than get into a fight. We'll catch you guys next week.